Hello and welcome everybody to the fourth in our series of CAQDAS webinars. My name is Christina Silva and I'm joined here today with my colleague Sarah Bullock in co-chairing this event. For those of you who haven't engaged with the CAQDAS networking project very much in the past, we have been around in the Department of Sociology at the University of Surrey, which is based in Guildford, about an hour from London. And our project was set up in 1994 to provide information, advice, training and ongoing support in the use of specialised tools, software programs and other applications to support the analysis of qualitative and mixed methods materials. So, just a few reminders before we get started, is that we have one more webinar coming up before the end of the year, when we will be joined by David Woods, who is the developer of a software program called Transana, and he will be discussing with us transcription as an analytic act. We are also scheduling already webinars for next year, and myself and Sarah Bullock will be kicking off our series for 2021 with a webinar that we're calling On the Hunt for Quality, the Role of Digital Tools in Qualitative Analysis. So that's going to be a little bit of a double act with Sarah and myself, and we hope very much that you'll join us to discuss the really important issue of quality and the role of digital tools. Also remember that as well as receiving the link to the recording for today's webinar, you can go to our YouTube channel and see past recordings and other resources as well. And also to remind you that we have a few training courses coming up before the end of the year, and we continue to offer discounts on all of our training sessions to support researchers and students in these challenging times when everybody's working from home. So, I have great pleasure today in welcoming Dr Nancy Muriuki, who is currently an adjunct lecturer at Pan Africa Christian University in Nairobi, Kenya. And she is going to share with us today her experiences of teaching qualitative data analysis using the software f4analyse. Nancy is also the founding director of Africa Success Enhancement Lab, where amongst other things she offers training on corruption prevention. She also chairs the board of the Kenya Accountants and Secretaries Examination Board, and she serves as a board member of the Kenya National Accreditation Services. These professional roles illustrate Nancy's very varied career, and she has spent more than 25 years in other sectors, including government, corporate and non-governmental organisations before her current academic phase. Outside of work, Nancy enjoys reading, socialising, singing and listening to gospel music, and she lives in Nairobi with her husband and 4 grown-up children. And that is where she will be speaking to us from today. So before I hand over to Nancy, please feel free to post any questions that you have for her in the Q&A area of this Teams event. And myself and Sarah will collate those questions and lead the discussion later on when Nancy has finished. So for now, I will pass over to Nancy, who will share her slides. Welcome, Nancy, and thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us today.
Thank you so much, Christina and Sarah. It's indeed a great pleasure for me today to have this opportunity to share my experience of teaching qualitative data analysis using f4analyse. As you have heard, I teach at Pan Africa Christian University, and I'll make my presentation in 3 parts. I will start with the introduction. I will introduce both PAC University and Africa Success Enhancement Lab. I will also introduce f4analyse just briefly, because there could be people here who may not have had time to go to the website, just to give an overview, but otherwise the website gives a lot of information. The next part of my presentation will be my story, really, the learning and the teaching journey of f4analyse and of qualitative research online. That will also include feedback from the students who used f4analyse. It will also include challenges and lessons learned and a few recommendations that I wish to make. We then have conclusion and a question and answer session, which will come at the end of the presentation. So welcome, and I wish all of us a good time. So I'll start by talking about Pan-Africa Christian University. PAC, as we commonly call it, is a Christian private university in Kenya. Kenya is in East Africa. And PAC was founded in 1978 as a Bible college and received its charter as a private university in Kenya in February 2008. So PAC has celebrated its 10 years already as a chartered university, but as a long history, as you can see. The vision of PAC is to be a world-class Christian university characterized by high-quality, transformative, and value-based education. The mission of PAC is to develop transformative, godly Christian leaders, and that is done through training. It's done through research and innovation for service, not just to man, but service to God in the church and in community. Currently, PAC has over 35 courses and 3 schools. One of the schools is the School of Leadership, Business and Technology. This is the school where I currently serve or teach as an adjunct faculty member. As you have learned from Christina, I spent quite a big chunk of my life out there in the corporate and other sectors, and I started this in 2018 April. That's when I joined PAC as an adjunct lecturer. What about online learning at PAC? Even though PAC may be younger than most institutions of higher learning in Kenya, PAC was among the first universities in Kenya to start online learning. As I will tell you, the qualitative research that I taught was on online, and PAC has developed quite a great deal its online learning platforms. PAC has been therefore conducting online classes for over 15 years. If you would like to learn more about PAC, you can visit our website and it is given there, and you'll be able to learn more about Pan-Africa Christian University. Let me now introduce the Africa Success Enhancement Lab. This is also a private company limited by guarantee, which I founded with a few other people in 2016. We are still setting up and doing training, and the mission of ASL is to contribute to increasing the pool of leaders and citizens of integrity in Africa and beyond. It's informed by the current problem of corruption that is devastating many economies. And so we do this by training everyone, including children. We have programs including integrity formation, early childhood, and programs for youth in order to build people's immunity to corruption by encouraging them to adopt the principles of servant leadership, which enable someone to enlarge their career vision beyond themselves. The vision of ASL, therefore, is that one day, Africa will be filled with leaders who shun corruption and prioritize integrity. Though we start in Africa, we hope we can do this much more in other places. So I'm now going to introduce f4analyse. As you have been told already, this is a qualitative data analysis software that was released to the market in the year 2012. Why was f4analyse released? The aim of the developers was to make it easy for beginners like me and others to start using a software for qualitative data analysis. And the developers or the founders of this software are called, well, one of them is Thorsten Ressing and Thorsten Phil. And I want to take this opportunity to appreciate and thank Thorsten, who is here today. We are indeed extremely privileged, especially for me, to have you in this meeting. Now, f4analyse, as I said, was intended to make it easy for beginners to start using. One of its key strengths is that it is flexible, and its tools are flexible. There are also integrated tools for note-taking, for structuring memos, interpretation, and summaries that aid in writing the research report. Remember, in qualitative data analysis, we collect from the field a lot of text data. It is not like quantitative where it's agree or it's numerical. And so when we use f4analyse, it provides us with a key strength of flexibility and integration of tools that enable us to simplify our data through note-taking, structured memos, interpretations, and summaries, so that when you're writing the report later, it becomes easier. Another thing that f4analyse does, it allows a researcher to analyze data by creating a project file. As I will show you in a screenshot later, normally when you collect your data, you may have recorded it in MS Word or other format that is not necessarily in rich format. So f4analyse allows you to create a project file, and then you put your data in the project file and you transfer to the system or to the software, which allows you to then analyze. As I've just mentioned, the project file is created by converting the original data files into rich format. How do you do this? Let's suppose you collected your data using MS Word and you saved it as a simple Word document. It is very simple. You just go to your computer and you click Save As. Once you click Save As, you scroll down the menu. Instead of now clicking MS Word or Word document, you click Rich Format and you click Save. When you save now, you give it a new name so that when you transfer the data to f4analyse, you then be able to use the software. As we will see from the screenshot, the project file that you create and transfer is then transferred and displayed on the interface that provides us with the opportunity to start our analysis by creating codes, categories, and themes. The display on the interface provides 4 main areas, which we are going to see in the next slide. This screenshot has been developed or was developed by Christina Silva and Sarah Bullock in 2018, and I'm going to use it to explain to us how f4analyse works. As I said, this is the interface. When you create your project file, you leave it in your computer. You then open f4analyse, the software. You get the software. If you're a student, you will get the software free. And if you're a faculty member, if you're not, then there is a small fee that is charged. And once you purchase the software and you open it, you'll then see a screen like this one. Now let's start with the main menu. This main menu, the first one here gives you an opportunity, is the main menu to create a project file. It will give you an opportunity to create a new project file. When you click here, it will give you an opportunity to create a new project file, and you'll give it a name. Then when it comes to the next, it will give you an opportunity now to import or export, and that is when you will go to your computer, click on the file that you saved in rich format, and then it will come and it will be listed here. Now, this is the text listing. For example, when I was teaching, I used data that I had created a while back, trying to assess the effectiveness of public officers' ethical codes here in Kenya. I had gotten data from about 4 organizations, and so I saved each of these organizational data as a file. Now, when I wanted to, or if today I wanted to go and get that file, which I have saved as rich format, I will click and it will take me to my computer. I will click my file, let's say organizational one, it will come and list here. I will do the same for the next organization or the next data set. It's just according to how you collected your data and you have saved it. So it will list all the text here, which you are going to analyze in this project. They are listed, even if they are listed in alphabetical order or anything, you can always change this order by dragging so that the order in which you want to see it can appear. Now, once you have your text in here, is listed in here, then whatever you want to analyze displays on this, the tabs to alter the display. This is the one you see. You can see some red lines, some green, and then some red. If I want to start working on the data for organization 1, I'll click there and it will all appear here. Now, this is the working area where the text is shown and we can start analyzing it. In qualitative data analysis, once we have put the text here, we do coding, or we create codes or categories depending on how we find the people, what people are saying coming out. For example, when I did my research and I was asking the people, what do you think about the public officers' ethical code? Some said it's a good tool. Some said it can only work when enforced. Others said it's not useful unless the seniors read by example. Others said it's not useful. So one of the key codes that I created is good too. So I click the code here. I click here codes. It will give me an opportunity to name my code. For example, I will say good too. And then I go through my text from the first participant. If participant number 1 said it's good and it can be used, I'll click here and I'll then click here and it will underline. Let's say now my good is red color. f4analyse gives us colors to be able to identify our codes. So if now I decide that enforcement is another code and I code it color green, I will go through the text for organization 1 and I pick out all the keywords or the codes, the ones that attach to these codes. I'll look at the code, I'll come and look at the text and I'll pick out all the segments of the data that correspond to the various codes. Now, before even I go to another organization to code data, let me tell you that f4analyse also allows us to make comments. For example, if a participant or respondent says these cons are useless unless senior people live by example, I might select that particular segment or line and I make a comment here and I say this participant is saying 1, 2, 3, so that when I'm writing my notes, these comments can help me. But even inside the text, there is a provision for a memo so that I can make some comments or some highlights on the text using the memo. All these comments and memos that I'm using will be displayed accordingly during my further analysis. So these are the facilities that f4analyse gives us. The comments for the selected text will appear here, down here, and then in-text memos are accessible from the bottom, and you can access them by clicking on the sign. There is a small icon that shows you the memo. Once you have worked on the data, for example, for every organization, you then continue with your analysis. This tab you see here, selection, allows you to look at the data. You may decide to look at data, for example, for one code. You may decide to look at one code or two codes. You can compare them. You can compare what is happening to one code compared to the other. You can make various comparisons and various displays on the selected data or coding when you go to the selection code. The summary will, as its word says, will show you the summaries. You may want to find out what is the quantity or how many people are talking about good, it's a good tool, or it is only through enforcement. That will summarize for you according to the way you want it summarized. And you are able, let's say if it's the red color, we can have the summary in red color, which will be representing a particular code, and etc., etc. Now, the distribution gives us a kind of an Excel sheet, and it will show us, for example, how many times a particular code was, is appearing within the text, and various other aspects of the data that we may want to see. It is numerical, the distribution is numerical. And so once you have worked on this data over and over again, because in qualitative data, we don't do it once and finish. These cons that we have created here, we may find probably we have created, let's say, 20. But then we realize probably we can have subcodes. If one code has got too many statements from the field or from the data, we may decide to create subcodes, and then we reduce. So the analysis continues, and you can go through the same process of having comments, having memos, and comparisons through these tabs of the facility that is provided, until, as a researcher, you are satisfied that you have exhaustively analyzed the data, until you feel you have picked out all the pertinent issues that the participants are saying. Because in qualitative research, people will give us statements. It's very rich data, and so this is the way we work on it in f4analyse. There is a tutorial on the website that one can use to learn more, but basically this is the display of the interface that we use in f4analyse. Now, the next thing that I'll be telling you about is now my learning journey. How did I come to know about f4analyse and taught it? And I'll also mention briefly the pedagogical approaches that I used to teach my students. Now, in September 2018, I was asked by the end of department, who I believe is present, today, Dr. Odwar, to teach advanced qualitative research at PAC to a PhD class. This course is 3 credit hours offered online for 12 weeks. The class had 14 students who are members or part of a cohort in the organizational leadership class, and they were in their 2nd semester in the courses. The course is usually taught among other courses, and it prepares students for choosing their final research topics. And so this is where I found myself in September 2018. Now, at PAC, as you have seen the mission, we don't just teach. We seek to make a difference. We also don't just make a difference, we serve. And so if you think you need to do something different or more to make it better for the students and for the community, it is allowed. Now, I was working within a background where, here in Kenya, the number of graduate students who use qualitative methods compared to quantitative are very few. We are very few students. In fact, for the time that have been there, the examinations and the supervision, I think I have seen only 1 qualitative student in the last more or less 3 years now. And I think one who is using mixed methods, and that's common in most. I was trying to look at the University of Nairobi theses and dissertations, and I could count, the last 3 years, the number of students who are using qualitative methods for their data analysis. For their research process. So for that reason, many universities are not aware, or while the use of computer-aided data analysis software in quantitative research has grown tremendously, the same is very slow in qualitative research. And so schools and colleges at different stages of developing their systems, even the public and under universities, are still at an early stage of developing their systems for requiring the teaching of software-aided data analysis in qualitative research. So this is the background within which we are working, or I was working. So those who teach are charged with the responsibility of employing creativity and innovation so that we can all keep pace with technology and ensure that students who you teach at least gain some knowledge in computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software. But may I also add something here? Another thing that was pushing me was because during my PhD journey, I really admired the professors who taught me. They were so committed. They did everything possible they could. And because I did an online degree, it was blended. There was face-to-face, but the bigger part was online. I learned through that journey because for the first semester, almost the first year, we did a lot of learning on online learning, looking at published papers on online learning. And I could see that in the US, for example, even lower primary was already online. I knew that the way to go is technology. And so technology must be part of all teaching in research, whether it is qualitative or quantitative. That conviction was already in me. And this is what, therefore, prompted me to search for a software, because although it was not mandated in the syllabus, I knew from this experience that there is no way I would really be doing the right thing if I left students to just go and they do not know anything about qualitative, software assistance in qualitative data analysis. So what I did, I talked to the head of department and I said, could I just search for a simple software that I can teach my students, if you could allow? and the head of department allowed it, and I got a letter from the DVC academic, and PAC allowed me to go on with my search. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Pan-Africa Christian University, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here today. I searched online. I got quite a few, but somehow when I came across the CAQDAS networking project, which is the project hosting us today of the University of Surrey, I thought they were good. So I just wrote an inquiry like you normally write on email. I sent an email and I waited for a response. I received a response from Dr. Christina Silva. And without going into very many details, we conversed and I explained to her my need, and I made a request as to whether she could train me. At that time, I was thinking of big things like Atlas and NVivo, which I haven't used before. But Christina, who is very experienced, was very kind, because this idea was coming to me almost a month into the semester. The students had already been given an assignment to collect data, which they were to analyze in a month's time. And those who were doing qualitative did not know how to, because it was a qualitative class, everyone was to do it qualitatively. So here I am and trying to see if they can get something that can assist them at least for the training. So Christina informed me that we cannot do NVivo or Atlas in this short time we have, Nancy. We will need to learn something simple, and there are many that students can quickly learn, and then, you can learn and then teach your students. So we made a plan, and we agreed with Christina that she was going to teach me online, and I asked her to do it through Skype. And Christina, again, who I normally say was God sent because Zoom was not known, told me, Nancy, there is another platform called Zoom, which is more stable for training. I use it for my training and I would recommend it for you. I'll send you a link. I'll show you how to get in, and then we shall do our class. And so Christina did all that. I must also mention that when she gave me the fee note, and because they are a training institution that charges, and I explained to her that the charges were very high for me. Nevertheless, I was going to brave it and pay, and she was very kind. She said, Nancy, I'm going to do for you free, but you are going to give something to a charity, which I did on her behalf. And I am thankful, very, very thankful, Christina, to you and the entire community of the University of Surrey for that kindness. So we held 3 Zoom classes. I still have the recording, which I was very green, and I normally laugh when I see it, but thank you, Christina. So we did the class for 3 days, and I was able to have a grasp of what f4analyse is, and I was going to do exactly the same to my students. So once Christina finished with me, I also, as I was going through the classes with her, I was already preparing my students. I was telling them, this is coming. I have found something, and they were receptive. So once I was through with Christina, I used the same Zoom and I taught my students. And I'm now going to look at the pedagogical approaches that I used. These students were about 14. They were in 4 countries. We had students from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and we also had a student who was working in the Kenyan embassy or in Brussels, and we were able to connect through Zoom, and there was no problem. And so that is how I am here today. That is how I got to know f4analyse. That is how I got to know Zoom, and it just speaks to the benefits of technology and how technology can remove barriers that could otherwise have prevented us from exchanging knowledge and expanding our learning. So I want to take this opportunity once again to appreciate Christina and Sarah and the entire community of the CAQDAS project and the University of Surrey for that kind assistance that they gave me. Once I had learned, then I now want to share the pedagogical approaches that I used to teach my students. And there were 4 approaches that I used. There was awareness creation, which I have already alluded to through emails and various other ways. Then we had the actual training in class through Zoom. And now, though we teach online and we do not normally see each other, this time we had to see each other on Zoom. And it was very interesting because all of us were still learning. It was 2018. There was also self-learning and the research project because they took the tutorial, the students took the tutorial and also practiced using their own data that they had collected. We also continued to interact during sessions in class, on emails, and on the dialogues. The kind of learning system which we use at PAC, we do it through dialogues, interactive sessions, and this is what we used. Now, in terms of awareness creation, I've already alluded to what we did. We introduced the software. I introduced it through email. I contacted Christina, who organized everything, including the availability of licenses to students, which were free. I made announcements through the class dialogue forums, and the course instructions and expectations were also communicated. And so, as I said, the students got their licenses free. And again, thank you to Dustin, thank you to Christina. So after that, then we continued to encourage students to interact with the website themselves continuously. And that helped a lot. There is a tutorial and the students continued to interact with it. The next thing that we did, or that I did, was now the actual training. We held 4 Zoom classes with all the students. We also used dialogue forums to discuss what we were learning. And myself, I used the data that I was talking about to teach them so that they could then run and be familiar with the functionalities of f4analyse that we mentioned earlier, and then they could do it on their own. There was also an open question and answer session all through the classes, but even after, if a student felt that they were not getting it, I allowed them to contact me even individually through email or even a single Zoom, and we were able to go through as much as we could given the time that was available. We also now encouraged, and I encourage the students to continue interacting with the tutorial, as I've already said, and they analyze their data, which they had collected. I will not dwell so much on that again because I've already mentioned it. But then the interactive sessions continued through the dialogues, through the tutorials, through emails, and actually I sent them the recorded video. During the writing process, after they had done the analysis, then the students raised points of discussion on the dialogue forums on the online learning management system. And may I also take this opportunity to thank the ICT in charge at PAC, Bwana Nocheng, who also helped me a lot, and I thank you even for today being here and for assisting the students. So that is the way we did it, and I will now give you the feedback from students. There's a lot I could have said about all the interaction, but in summary, I think that covers the journey. Now, we had many students who gave feedback, but I'll share just a few points or a few comments from a few students just to demonstrate how the F4 was received and how the students felt about it. One of the students said, "Mwalimu, the journey has been tough, through and through, even in terms of running the qualitative research itself. But came the class that I will never forget. One of the most memorable of all lessons was the f4analyse class that we recently had. I cannot say that I have ever heard of this computer-assisted data analysis software before, but at the end of it all, I was able to understand and use it in my research. It was so practical and simple to use for one who had never used it before. There was another student who said that they had only been able to download the f4analyse, transform data in rich text format, and they were still working on the coding of the data. However, the student expressed excitement about the use of computers in data analysis, as she felt it provided an opportunity to come up with a better analysis and the options to see the data from different perspectives. There was another student still who felt that the class was very helpful and informative, and the coding process did not look as complicated after practice as it was when we began the learning. She even went on to talk about her research, and you will see the details when you get the slides, but the students concluded by saying, I look forward to discovering more as I analyze the data. The other student that I picked said that he or she was able to experience firsthand how f4analyse assists in taking over the manual process. I think the reason I picked this, because this is the key point here. f4analyse assists us just like other qualitative data analysis software, and that's why the project that Christina works for is promoting the use of the software. Sometimes the data is so much and you cannot do it manually. So the software, f4analyse, and the student was able to pick it very well, very early. It takes over the manual process. The student says he or she was able to download, practice, and was able to practice writing memos, inserting codes, assigning colors, and this was very exciting even for me. Some students created subcons and some did extremely well and finished the analysis using the f4analyse. So in summary, there are some students who found it very difficult, at the beginning. Some were saying, I have no idea what I'm doing, but let me keep doing it. Others said, teacher, this is hard. Others, all that. But as we continued with the ups and downs, finally, many of them felt, oh, f4analyse actually makes sense. Others were like, did I really do it? I must admit, some became so good, indeed very good. And they did a very good job. And it was unbelievable. People, in the dialogue forums were like, I did it. And it was an exciting short time of learning. Now, before I complete, I thought that it's good to come to share just a few lessons that we learned and the challenges, and then make some recommendations. The first lesson that I can share with us today is that f4analyse is actually friendly and easy to use for novice researchers like myself and other people. When you look at the time that Christina took to teach me, and also for me to learn and teach, you can attest to that. So that was first learning. The second learning was that integration of computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software was not included in most syllabuses. I looked up quite a number of qualitative research syllabuses across from the internet, and I realized that probably it is the high time, because of the emergence of technology, that it became part of the syllabus, so that it is introduced and adopted early to graduate students in all institutions of higher learning. I did not know that it was not included, but out of this, I was able to see that it was not included. I also learned that probably on the side of developers, this gap that we are seeing in the inclusion of CAQDAS in the syllabuses the software developers would help, because you can see the project like where Christina is working. After they put their visibility on the internet, I was able to be helped, and others. And so probably developers could also do a little more to make to bring the visibility of the software for qualitative data analysis to people who may not be aware of them as we go forth in this new era. The challenge, of course, was time, as I said already. The other challenge is just what I have said. It was not in the syllabus, so I had to get permission, and I'm glad that I got it. Then convincing students also for them to see the benefit. The course was online, but then f4analyse required us to have some demonstrations. But thank God for Zoom, which was going to become something. So that was another challenge, but thank you, Christina, for the help to get on to the Zoom. I want to quickly now see what I've been doing a bit of reading and trying to find out how are people teaching qualitative research online. Have they been teaching the software? What has been happening? I found from the literature that teaching online for qualitative research is a recent phenomenon, although I found some people who have been teaching even for over 10 years. And many times, teachers are not prepared for adoption of education technology. So like myself, I think I am just an example. Because this phenomena is new, many people are not as prepared, and I found that from that writer. I'll include it in the references. Also, today we are required to have digital pedagogy, but before you just had to have content and then the pedagogy itself, the knowledge of pedagogy. But as I did the research, I realized that now teachers are required to have technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, in addition to what was required previously. I believe this may not only be for qualitative research or for teaching qualitative research, but my research was specifically on teaching qualitative research. For my own experience, I used the course sites by Blackboard, which were then being used by PAC. And right now, PAC is using Open LMS by Blackboard. The course duration was 12 weeks. Orientation to the technology was provided by the ICT department. Thank you again. And the pedagogy approaches that we use at PAC for online classes, we have discussion questions, which we call DQs. You post one every week, 4 of them in a semester, and the students post a prescribed number of dialogues. And the format for those dialogues is also given, and the requirements, and they are marked and graded. Then we have weekly compendiums, like where I was picking those comments. They are also graded, and instructions are given on how they should be done. There are minor papers, it can be 2 or more, and there are major papers. And then finally, like the research I talked about was a major paper. And then finally, there is an exam that is conducted also through the learning management system, and also we beef up all this with email communication. Teaching f4analyse through Zoom, this is what I did to facilitate a practical illustration, as I have just said. Now, how have others done it, those who have taught? According to this writer, Nelson 2019, I didn't find it so different because they use orientational strategies, they use an instruction media, they use online discussions, and then there's integrated applied research and writing activities. So I found that PAC is doing well, or is quite advanced, only that now we just need to include all the courses, especially qualitative data analysis software in the syllabus, and we shall be just where the others are. Out of all that experience, my recommendation today just out of this is that qualitative data analysis software should be included in the software, in the syllabus. I already mentioned it to the dean at PAC, and ongoing consultations are going on. But in any university or institution of higher learning, I would recommend that the qualitative research syllabus should include the requirement that students must learn a software for data analysis and do practice, so that once they leave and they want to choose a qualitative or mixed method research, they have a foundation. Access to technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge framework should also be encouraged. I think that the developers of the software can accelerate the use of software if they provided universities with training packages that prepare teachers for online teaching. I think this could help, so that then teachers are equipped, and once teachers are equipped, this will not be a gap anymore. Now, finally, I thought that, Christina, we can also start our CAQDAS on this end. So what about a partnership between Africa Success and the CAQDAS networking project, so that we can accelerate the pace of development of this tool or these tools on our end? If possible, the same could be extended to PAC University upon necessary consultations. I want to say that I wasn't able to discuss this, but I know PAC, being who they are, this would be welcome. It's just a thought, and it can be discussed further. And so, in conclusion, I would like to say that f4analyse is a great tool. It can enhance the learning of qualitative research at PAC and other institutions of higher learning. Indeed, technology has changed the way things are done and when they can be done. Through sharing of experiences, the capacity of teachers and lecturers to teach qualitative research can be enhanced across the globe by acquiring digital pedagogical skills, and this is demonstrated by the fact that through the computer, I could get to Christina and University of Surrey. Exchanging ideas and lessons learned and experiences in diverse environments and in different cultures and contexts will augment the learning and development of computer-assisted or computer-aided qualitative data analysis. And so I feel that this particular aspect of qualitative data analysis software has a big, bright future, and it can be done through collaboration, through exchange of ideas, especially through technology, because the era we are now, especially COVID-19, has really made us know technology is going to be, and is already, the way of the future. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. I know time has gone, but let me know if there is one or two questions that I can attend to. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It's Sarah Bullock here. Thank you so much for that thorough and very interesting account, not only for the detail into some of the elements of the software that you discussed for us here today, but also for telling us about your own learning journey. It's always so interesting to hear about how other facilitators came to their work in training in these software packages. And I also found it particularly interesting to hear about the contexts in which you are teaching qualitative methods, since these contexts are so important in shaping our landscape at the moment. So thank you so much. Thank you also to the attendees. We had a number of questions here. I'm going to bring a few of these together because a few of them are around technical questions about f4analyse and also in relation to f4analyse as compared to other CAQDAS packages. So I'm going to read the questions out at the moment, and then what Christina Silva will do is post for you all some links to some materials that we have that might go some way to answering some of those technical questions, and then I'll pose a question of Nancy as well. So we have a question around whether the software f4analyse can help us with content analysis, and Christina is going to post in a moment our CAQDAS networking project f4analyse review, which gives a bit of information about some of the things that are possible in the software, so that should be helpful. We also had some questions. One, can you discuss some advantages or disadvantages of using f4analyse over other softwares like NVivo or Deduce? And a similar question saying, how is f4analyse software different from NVivo? And there again, Christina Silva is going to post a link to our CAQDAS networking project, choosing an appropriate CAQDAS package resource, which helps to navigate some of the differences and similarities across the different software packages. Unless you wanted to add anything about that in particular, Nancy, I would turn to another question. Are you happy for me to do that?
I'm fine, Sarah.
Okay, lovely, thank you. So there are a couple of questions around people being interested about perhaps embedding what you're doing, I think. So one of them is around becoming a trainer. And the question is, are there trainers for this software, and how do I join the list of trainers to promote the software? So I was wondering whether you wanted to say something a bit about how you ended up doing that, Nancy?
Thank you, Sarah. I think, as I was mentioning, I just ended up by, let me say, an adventure to want to teach my students and getting into contact with Christina. And for the question, the person who asked, the last recommendation I was making is that we could join and become trainers. I know CAQDAS does not promote a particular software, but just promoting the use of software in qualitative data analysis. And, you know, F4 is what I used, and it is good.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So to our knowledge, there are trainers through f4analyse, just like Nancy is a trainer at the moment. It's worth checking out the f4analyse website in relation to this, and maybe also contacting the developers themselves to see if they know local trainers in your area, if you are interested in getting involved in that way. You can also contact us at the CAQDAS Networking Project. We provide training in f4analyse as well. So those are two avenues there. There's also a question around pricing around f4analyse, and what we'll do is we'll post a link along with the recording of the webinar to some places that you can go for that kind of information around the cost of the software. So we are at the top of the hour now. Nancy, it's been such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much again for your time and for sharing your insight, both as a user of the software and as a trainer of the software. Those two things are so importantly intertwined, and I feel like that's come through very importantly through your talk. So thank you for that. I'm going to allow Christina Silva just to say one or two things about the way in which the webinars will move forward from now, and also about posting the recording online. So thank you all very, very much. Christina?
Hi, thanks very much for that, Sarah, and Nancy as well. I really enjoyed listening to your experiences and remembering some of the fun times we had together I think it's a year or 18 months ago when we first started collaborating around this. So thanks again for this session. Those of you who've been asking about the recording, we will be sending you an email tomorrow with a link to the recording, which will be posted on our YouTube channel. And there you can also find recordings of previous webinars on that channel. As I said earlier, we have one more webinar coming up on the 2nd of December, which is related in some ways to what Nancy's been talking about today, when David's going to be talking specifically about transcription as an analytic act. There was a question, I think, that came through today about transcribing, so we'll also provide some information about that in respect to f4analyse when we email you tomorrow. So we hope that you found it interesting and useful today, and we hope to welcome you at some of our next webinars in the future. So thank you very much, and have a lovely evening or rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you, Christina.